And to that we say,
Amen.
Amen. You may have your seats as we put our hands together for LXS. Don't worry, they'll be back. Not once, not twice.
Yes,
before
please.
day
Let's
two
give them
ends. Let's put our hands
a proper
together for
round of
LXS.
applause. Thank you.
It's the presence of some of their names. We have a pleasure of the presence of the First Lady of Kwara State, who's the chairperson, Nigeria Governors Spouses Forum, Her Excellency Ambassador Professor Olufolake Abdul-Razak. Let's put our hands together for her. We also have a First Lady of Ogun State. Also with us is the First Lady of Imo State, Her Excellency Barrister Chioma Uzodinma. We also have the Ambassador of Mexico to Nigeria, Ambassador Alfredo Miranda. Good morning, you're welcome. You can go.
Let's together for her, please.
I want to say a big thank you.
Usi Charles, Country Director of Planet 5, for a special remark.
Can I go ahead? Yeah. A very good morning to all our distinguished guests here. Permit me to just ride on the existing the First Ladies here in Nigeria for the rights of children and Nigeria. It's part of the reason why I'm standing here in Nigeria. Man, with a promise for an exchange for a phone. And of course, as usual, when a young girl gets pregnant in school, she's a boy in school who impregnated her. The boy will continue school, but the girl will be asked to drop out. This is the case of millions of girls across Nigeria. And for us in Plan International, this is totally unacceptable. It is part of the reason why, since the Gender Inclusion Summit started 3 years ago, we have been a partner to the conference. And permit me to very specially celebrate the Policy Innovation Center for bringing us together, led by Dr. Osasui. It's been an amazing platform. What does this platform do for us? This platform brings about practitioners, the best implementers, advocates for gender inclusion across Nigeria, across Africa, in one hall at one point in time to discuss and to negotiate on how we can bring about a world that is fair, equitable, and just to everybody. I always make the statement that 2 years ago, the World Economic Summit actually informed us that it would take 130 years for us to achieve gender equality. Plan International is set to beat this clock. And today, I'm encouraging all our esteemed First Ladies to please join us in beating this clock. 130 years is too long. It's unacceptable for us to wait for us to achieve gender equality. This is the reason why this summit is hugely important, because a summit like this helps to fast track and leapfrog this time, and for us to actually ask ourselves, what is holding us back? What is actually delaying us from achieving the full potentials for women and girls, especially in a country like Nigeria and across Africa? So when we gather like this, it is for us to bring out the best of our ideas, the best of our tactics and approaches to gender equality. Let's talk about the painful issues, the issues that usually do not take center stage. The reason why I'm standing here today as a country director of one of the biggest international NGOs in the world is because many years ago when I was barely 9, my dad left us, 5 of us, 5 siblings, with just my mom. And my mother, who didn't go to school, actually a petty trader, had to wrestle with 5 children. There were moments where my mom actually looked at us and said, I remember I was 9 when my mom first told me that statement, that Charles, I am ready to go naked for you to go to school, because that's the only chance you have in life. Today, my mom is 75. She will actually be 75 in in October. And I have three sisters. In fact, my first sister is a professor of medicine today. Do you know why we actually got to this stage in life? It's because my mom fought through. But I don't think any woman deserves that kind of life that is painful. A woman who will wake up in the morning and ask herself, these little resources I have, should I use it to buy food for my children or health care for the one that is sick? In one of the communities we work in Benue State, in places like Plateau, in Adamawa, I have met women who will tell me that, Charles, one of my child died because I did not have the resources to take that child to the hospital. The only resources I had was to feed the remaining 4. So I had to make a decision, to treat 1 or to feed 4. No woman deserves to be faced with that kind of a life choice. So today, as we continue to speak, I am begging, pleading, and encouraging all of us to say, let's talk about the difficult conversations, the difficult points, but let's not just talk. This is not a talk shop. Let us then, after talking, look for the alliances, build relationships to catalyze action. One of the participants yesterday here told me that, Charles, this platform feels like a movement. I say, yes, that's what it is. It is a movement. So today, do not leave here without making new partnerships, new alliances, and agreeing on just one action you will take. I will end by telling you the action I have taken. 3 years ago when I joined Plan International as country director, I decided that I would not just talk about what we should do for girls. I will act. And since then, every year, through a competitive process, I choose a young girl who will shadow me for 1 year. So I have a shadow country director. She accompanies me. She's actually here. I'm sure she's in one of the side events talking. She shares my space as a country director for 1 year. She accompanies me to every conference. She joins me in meetings, in decision makings. And when I speak for Plan as an organization, she speaks for girls in Nigeria. This is a practical leadership. And I encourage you today, as you leave here, as you continue this conversation, please decide, what am I going to do today to beat the clock? What am I going to do today to ensure that we enjoy more gender equity in everything we do? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming, and I wish us all a really brilliant day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Issa Charles, Country Director, Plan International Nigeria. I've met her, by the way. I think she was with you last year. She stood right here last year. That's to say that there's a lot that can be done, absolutely. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I need your help. We're going to do some more acknowledgements, but I want you to give them a rousing applause as we reel out their names.
Okay, I'll start with Her Excellency, Mrs. Edisili Anan Okwebolo. And we also have Honorable Mrs. Claus. Thank you very much for being
National Institute for Legislative and Democracy of the Center. Please let's put our hands together for him as well. Well, the next special remarks is from a second screen, so we ask that you please pay attention to the screens to our left and our right. Thank you. Media.
Hello, it's a delight to join you. I'll be lecturing. Let me express for hosting this year's Gender and Inclusive Summit on the theme, New Voices and New Approaches for Accelerating Inclusive Society. The theme for this year's summit, New Approaches to Enabling Access. Africa is at a defining moment where achieving inclusive growth requires bold and transformative action. By leveraging innovative finances and inclusive policies, the continent can expand opportunities, ensure broad participation, and foster sustainable development. True progress extends beyond economic growth. It is rooted in inclusion, equity, and representation for all. Gender equity is not just a moral responsibility, but a necessity, strategic for building societies that are inclusive, resilient, and prosperous. Beyond promoting inclusive governance and economic participation, I believe this program will act as a catalyst for a new wave of impactful progress in advancing inclusiveness on the continent. I'm equally enthusiastic about the Purple Book 2025 program and the Gender and Inclusion Focus project, which are dedicated to addressing key challenges in the care economy by promoting gender equality across the African continent. And bound together.
Of Ghana, that was a beautiful remark there. Still going ahead with other remarks. I'd like to invite Miss Yetunde Adeojo, Business Lead, Commercial Banking, Access Bank, for a special remarks. Please, can we put our hands together for her as she comes to the stage?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. Everyone here today for your commitment to advancing the vision of gender equality and social people from diverse culture, industry, reshape norms and systems so that equality and inclusion moves beyond an aspiration and becomes lived realities in our society. In our industry, Blue Initiative, with equal opportunities and leadership and aims and services such as entrepreneurs, and creates honored this morning to partner with the Policy Innovation Center in championing this year's theme, New Voices and New Approaches for Accelerating an Inclusive Society. As we listen to the powerful perspectives shared at this summit, I reaffirm our commitment to continuing innovating, collaborating, and driving practical actions. Together, we can amplify new voices, we can unlock new opportunities, and accelerate the progress towards the more inclusive future we all desire and deserve. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Divisional Head, Retail and SMEs from Wema Bank. So ladies and gentlemen, please let's put our hands for her. Thank you.
Wema Bank, we are very, very proud, to be part of this summit as our way of leading inclusive development in our society. And Africa hinges very much on fostering inclusive growth that empowers all segments to the nation's economic development. Wema Bank reaffirms its dedication to advancing social equity and gender parity through innovative financial solutions and strategic partnerships. Invest in opportunities for women, aligning capital access, confidence, and capabilities to create participation. We recognize that true development requires, and so in line with the continent's immense potential, strategies that promote social inclusion, economic justice, and sustainable development, innovative approaches, partnerships, and drives Africa's transformation, building resilient economies and empowering marginalized groups. So together with government agencies, with development partners, and the private sector, we are dedicated to shaping policies and initiatives that promote gender equality, inclusive governance, and economic diplomacy. Let us work together to turn aspiration into action, leveraging economic development that benefits everyone. Inclusive future. Thank you very much.
Wema Bank. At this time, I'd like to invite Ambassador Alfredo Miranda, Ambassador of Mexico to Nigeria, for his special remarks. Please put your hands together for. Please let's keep clapping until he gets here. Thank you.
To be in front of you. Extraordinary resilience, possible without putting women and girls at the center of public life. Gender equality is not a Western idea, opportunity in both Nigeria and Mexico markets, in classrooms, and in communities. But for too long, they were denied full recognition, voice, and decision-making power in our institutions. Courage of women and the commitment of allies who understand. Speak briefly about Mexico. Deep gender-based challenges. We know the pain of violence against women. We know the barriers women facing equality becomes a national priority. In recent years, Mexico has achieved constitutional parity in all the institutionalization of gender policies across all branches of government. This progress was not automatic. It required law, political will, to recognize that their leadership must be means ensuring that youth groups all have a seat at the table. People. There is also labor markets could increase global.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. In your life, I need to mention that we have a pleasure of the presence of someone very special. Welcome. Please let's put our hands together for the Ambassador. Mark, I understand that the Ambassador needs to leave very soon. Nigeria, Ambassador Filda Nani. Quick remarks.
Ladies and gentlemen, very good morning. A unit called Gender and Inclusion. A unit called Gender and Inclusion Unit. This development was to facilitate effective promotion, advancement, and protection of gender-related issues in Nigeria.
Thank you, sir.
Compliments to the summit and hopes that the deliberations will be translated into action, would be presented, contribute to the meaningful you all, and God bless.
Legislative and Democratic Studies. Thank you. At this time, I have the distinct pleasure of inviting Lady of Kwara State and Chairperson Nigeria as she comes to the stage. Please keep clapping until she gets here. Thank you.
It's very difficult. I'm sure you saw that. Good morning, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here. I want to thank the PIC and NESG for inviting us here. As you know, we have 36 states in Nigeria, and each state has a first lady, or as you heard in here today. So it's a great pleasure for me to be part of the Nigeria Economic Summit Group in partnership with the Nigeria Governors Forum, as well as the Nigeria Governors Spouses Forum, solutions to advance gender, to addressing systemic barriers in our society by promoting gender equity across all sectors, education, healthcare, politics, corporate leadership, and beyond this very laudable summit. Gender inequities, you will agree with me, remain a major barrier to economic growth and social progress, despite numerous interventions targeting gender disparities, such as efforts to improve education, reduce poverty, expand healthcare access, enhance access to productive resources, promote leadership representation, and bridge the digital divide. Significant gender. 2024, women held only 95% of CEOs amongst Africa's largest companies are men. In this regard, today's event aims to accelerate progress towards a gender-inclusive Nigeria through harnessing innovative approaches and amplifying new voices as a strategy for advancing economic empowerment and social development for all. While economic empowerment outcomes extend beyond income and hence it is essential that we evolve transformative strategies that encompass inclusive. Leading this charge, the Nigeria Governors Spouses Forum to suit individual needs. Through our offices in our respective states, First Ladies across Nigeria have demonstrated measurable results in advancing gender equality and economic empowerment, through direct support to vulnerable groups, including widows, and tag the country with the most female entrepreneurs in the world. I think we need to clap for ourselves. Through vocational tools, startup grants, and scholarships for in schools. Also, the forum engages in sustained by the British Deputy High Commissioner. The High Commissioner also joined us, co-hosted by TOS. Chief Osasu is here. And we spoke about gender representation. And I hope you will all support the reserve seats for women bill when you hear about it. So we address GBV, keeping children of school age in school, and improving access to healthcare and clean water, statewide grassroots outreach to all local government areas, fostering trust and promoting cultural and economic initiatives. All these form major parts of our activities. Also, the forum engages in sustained advocacy for women's political representation and leads sensitization and awareness programs on all health and societal ills. You may all have heard about the HPV vaccine that was rolled out last year for girls aged between 9 and 14 years of age, and Nigeria really recorded an astronomical feat in this vaccination. We're also going to be rolling out the measles and rubella vaccine this October, and we hope that that will also really resonate in all communities. Outcomes of these interventions are evident in various states, and I could name so many states that are doing all these things. It may interest you to know that in Kwara State, for instance, Governor Malam Abdurrahman Abdurazak signed the 35% gender inclusion bill into law. And it is being executed across board in the state, and also 10 states in the country have approved the 6 months maternity leave for working mothers in Nigeria. Further to this, there are 5 women in the Kwara State House of Assembly out of 24 members. I know that Ekiti State has 6 members. I know that there are several states that have female deputy governors. Imo State is one of these states. Ogun State is also one of these states that have female deputy governors. There is also 50%, and I think Akwa Ibom as well, and Benue too. So you see, the states are doing very well. There is also 50% of women in the Kwara State Cabinet, which in the first tenure, we had 56%. So we had more women than men in the first tenure. In the local government areas, we have men as local government chairpersons and women as the vice chair. And I know that this is also replicated in a lot of our states. A lot of states also have a good commitment to gender inclusion, as we have enumerated. Also, my office and the Ajike People Support Center is a complementary drive through our interventions in women and youth economic empowerment, girl-child education, and advocating for more women to attain leadership positions. Going forward, the well-being of women and girls, and indeed vulnerable groups, remain a pivotal indicator of how well any nation is faring in driving her developmental plans. Hence, we are conscious of the tremendous progress that has been made to emphasize the need for women and girls into national economic planning and policy development. While there has been progress, we are reminded of the gaps associated with technical expertise of social and development sector partners to drive women and girls' empowerment outcomes. However, through strategic investments and innovative initiatives such as girls and youth thrive as entrepreneurs, workers, and leaders. In closing, outer equality empower realization of this feat. In all this, we have as our major partner the Nigeria Governors Forum, and a list we have as our partners in our work. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Her Excellency, Ambassador Professor Olufolake Abdulrazak. Let's put our hands together for her. She's the First Lady of Kwara State and Chairperson, Nigeria Governors Spouses Forum. And she said quite a number of things. And what's even beautiful to see is the fact that she's not here alone. She's here with her colleagues from other states, and that speaks volumes as to why this is important and how they're taking all of the issues around gender and inclusion on board. So thank you for the great work that you're doing, and the one that we look forward to you and the other colleagues in other states doing. Thank you once again. You know, year in, year out, the Policy Innovation Center organizes the Gender and Inclusion Summit. But what is the GS all about? Well, there's a video presentation that breaks down the Gender and Inclusion Summit. I would like for you to watch it for the next couple of minutes. Thank you.
When PIC was set up in 2021, the first thing we thought it was important to fix around the conversation on gender was capacity. And so we set up the Gender and Development course. And we had the first edition in April 2022. But leading from the Gender and Development course, in June 2022, we were thinking of having some conversations around gender. Gender is not about creating a buzz or a call to action, holding placards, and then everybody goes home. Gender for me is that point where we start the conversation about understanding how society constructs roles for men and women. To show the seriousness of the conversation around gender, it was first of all important to have a dedicated platform
where everyone could be heard, where everyone could speak, and using different ways to ensure that the knowledge is passed across. And the only solution to that was a summit. The Gender and Inclusion Summit kicked off in 2022. We had 700 people in the room in Transcorp. We had over 3,000 people join virtually. We had some people outside of Nigeria. Combined over the 2 days, we had over 1,000 people attend.
Immediately we said, you know what, we're not letting this die here. So first of all, we're going to ensure that we create a publication that guarantees that post-summit people can make reference to the conversation, use that as an advocacy tool into the coming year. And that's how we developed the Purple Book. The beautiful thing about the Gender Summit is that we are so very organic in the way we are evolving the summit. 2023 Gender Summit, we introduced a day zero, which is now the Gender Summit Learning Workshop. We titled that workshop, Measuring What Matters. So this 2025, we dreamt of the next 5 years. We're really, really ambitious. We see the Gender and Inclusion Summit as that place people want to be every September, not just to curate conversations, but to really enrich their personal experience, professional experience, their organizational experience, and bring together cutting-edge collaborations that would advance gender equity in Africa.
Please let's put our hands together for the PIC team. Absolutely. The Gender and Inclusion Summit is a place that people want to be to enrich their personal, professional experiences and come up with cutting-edge solutions to gender and inclusion issues. I'm happy to tell you that the Policy Innovation Center is the very first institutionalized behavioral initiative in Africa. Come on, let's put our hands together for the PIC. Amazing. But don't take my word for it, all right? The next person I'll be calling up is a powerful force behind the PIC. So ladies and gentlemen, let's give to Osasui Dirisu, the Executive Director of the Policy Innovation Center, PIC, for...
Ladies and gentlemen, time to come and join us this morning. We truly appreciate it. To shape policy through research and innovation. So what brings us here today is the policy innovations you see this morning. It's conversations around family and all that. So over the years, participation has grown, interest has grown. We're really grateful for that. It's an African-focused platform. We run the summit in Nigeria every September, and we run the post-summit event in another African country. In everyone who is joining us from different parts of Africa. We have participants from Kenya in capacity building, deepening our engagement of traditional religious and community leaders like we did yesterday, workplace inclusion, research and collaboration, thought leadership and innovation, global platforms, networking and opportunity, creating a networking and opportunity hub. Last night at the cocktail that we had here, we launched the U Network, the Usawa Network, which is really a network that will bring practitioners across Africa to work together, work closely. As our First Lady has said, the task around gender and social inclusion requires a lot of partnerships and collaborations, and we are committed to doing that over the next decade. Thank you so much for having us, and looking forward to fruitful deliberations today.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dirisu. Please, can we put our hands together again for her? Awesome. So at this time, we're going to transition really quickly to the keynote speech. I'd like to invite Mr. Ekenem Isiche, Deputy Director of Program Advocacy and Communications, Gates Foundation. Can we put our hands together for him as he comes?
Good morning, Your Excellencies, all the executives here in the room, MDAs, all protocols observed, Ambassador to the PIC and everybody else. Thank you for the opportunity. First of all, I want to just say thank you to the PIC for this opportunity. It's an amazing convening, and I believe that the platform that you put together is a fantastic one. So one thing I'll try to do here is just quickly talk about a couple of things, and I'll ask that you just give me a bit of time to just do that, Sasui, right? Thank you. So the first thing I'll say is that I work for the Gates Foundation, and people typically ask, what does the Gates Foundation do? The Gates Foundation has 3 aspirations. Number 1, no mother or child should die of any preventable cause. Number 2, no one should die of any infectious deadly diseases. And number 3, our goal is to lift millions of people out of poverty onto a path of prosperity. That is the focus of the Gates Foundation in Nigeria, and that's what we aspire to do. The Gates Foundation will be closing down in 20 years. That means that December 31st, 2045, the Gates Foundation will cease to exist. So what does that mean for us? We have a lot of work to do. So our goal is to really think about how do we leverage that knowledge? How do we leverage that capital? How do we help governments best serve its people? How do we execute on budget commitments? How do we focus on key health innovations? How do we streamline donor delivery coordinating mechanisms? Because through all the work that we're doing, our goal is to just support our partners and maintain a strong focus on women and girls, including women's economic empowerment, women's leadership, and women's health. Because if women are not intentionally included in policies and advocacy strategies, then half of the conversation is missing. So let me just set some context, just to bring you up to speed on how we are thinking as the Gates Foundation, and also the sense of urgency about why this conference is important. Since we gathered last year, and my colleague Saisui put this on the screen, aid to donor countries, specifically Nigeria, has dropped by 40%. That means that programs that intentionally supported women's health and empowerment were affected. Number 2, funding towards maternal and child health has dropped by 67%. That means for every 3 women in your community, 2 of them will not have access to critical women's health commodities that they had last year. And let me just do a quick poll. Every single one of us here is from a local government in Nigeria. How many of you have been to the primary health care centers in your village? Shocking, few hands. But that's where a lot of women in our communities go to get the healthcare services and support that they need. The second thing I'll say is that Nigeria moved up 25 ranks in the World Economic Forum Gender Gap, Economic Opportunity and Inclusion Sub-Index from 49th place to the 24th place, surpassing the government's target of reaching the top 25 by 2028. Many of these gains were actually realized through the increase in some of the labor force participation in the last 2 years. But this progress has not come without its challenges. I don't need to convince anybody in the room that achieving gender equality goals in Nigeria is a difficult task. And unfortunately, the global support for women's health and inclusive growth makes it less likely that we'll have more programs supporting women and gender equality and making sure that it will be prioritized. So there are now urgent, needs to fill these gaps when it comes to health response, when it comes to malnutrition, when it comes to women's health in general and other things. This is why the foundation, the Gates Foundation, in its part decided last month that it was going to commit $2.5 billion globally through 2030 to accelerate the research and development focused solely on women's health. Thank you. And we encourage other organizations and other companies to also do the same. So what I can assure you is that the success of Nigeria's development depends on its ability to include women in its recovery. While 70% of Nigeria's poorest are women, we cannot ignore the unique experiences of women climbing out of poverty. At the foundation, we have seen the hard evidence that proves that investing in women's health and women's economic empowerment has a lasting impact across generations. It will lead to healthier families, it will lead to stronger economies, and it will lead to a more just world. But here's the good news. The progress over the last few years has not happened in a vacuum. It started from building strong systems, platforms, and advocacy messages that support women. And many partners in this room have the ability to build on this foundation that has been laid, the momentum that has been catalyzed, and examples that have been set over the last few years. And one of the things I'll share is, the landscape, something for us to think about. The first thing is that over the last few years, especially last year, there was the development of the National Women's Economic Empowerment Policy and Action Plan and the state-level domestication. And I want to thank the Nigerian Governors Spouses Forum for the role that they played in making sure that we went to, we're now in 24 states. So the policy has been domesticated in 24 states. And hopefully by 2026, we'll get to all states in Nigeria. And doing this policy and doing the policy dialogue took 18 months. And it was a long consultative process of dealing with the Ministry of Finance, dealing with the Ministry of Women Affairs, Budget and National Planning, bringing everybody together to make sure that this is successful. The WE policy, if you don't know about it, is a strong blueprint for bringing Nigerian women and girls in sectors where they are most present: agriculture, entrepreneurship, education, and emerging industries into the formal labor force. Today, both Lagos State and Kaduna State have launched their domestication policy roadmaps through their own state-level processes. And they have tailored the national policy to the unique experiences of women in their states. The second one I want to bring up that is important is the sector-wide approach called SWAP. What it means is that you're just streamlining funding flows and you want to eliminate duplication between the federal government and the state governments across federal and state levels. And then the relaunching of the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund. So, for us gathered in this room, there is a call to action. We have policies, we have frameworks, we have examples. We all know about ribbon cutting, we all know about the launch celebrations. But that's just the beginning of what's required for all of us in this room and society more broadly to feel the actual effects of what we're trying to do. It is up to us in this room, governments, private sector, advocacy groups, and yes, philanthropists, to leverage these important frameworks to achieve common goals in women's health and inclusive economic growth. How can we do that? I'll share a couple of examples and I'll end. Number one, for all of us who are in government, and I appeal to all those who are in government, the first thing is that we need to build institutional muscle. We need more than policies. We need delivery. Ministries, development agencies, they must invest in the skills, the systems, and the staying power to implement these programs effectively. We can't just launch them. It means you have to institutionalize your gender desk. You have to strengthen planning and budgeting units. You have to equip local primary health care managers and gender officers within your state. You must use tools and data to lead with impact. It means regular monitoring and evaluation cycles, and not just reporting, but learning what works and then scaling it. Number two, you need to dedicate more public resources for women. That means gender-responsive budgeting. It cannot just remain as an annual template exercise. Federal and state governments must set clear expenditure targets. That is minimum allocations to women-led SMEs and dedicated maternal and adolescent health lines in state health budgets. Nigeria's 2025 budget already reflects some of that, but it must be protected, it must be disbursed, and it must be monitored. Then where the magic happens is really at the state LGAs. It is under this jurisdiction that women visit PHCs. I did a survey earlier on asking how many people know about their PHCs, and literally less than 10% raised up their hands, which means we have a lot of work to do even as champions for this cause. So it's at the LGAs that you see people attending training programs. We want people to not just attend training programs, but register their businesses. Lagos and Kaduna have proved that they have some good viable models that other states can learn from. And so we would like to see every state move from policy adoption to policy funding and citizens' accountability. And the last one for our government peers is prompt budget releases. It is not enough for women-focused programs to be approved. The funds must flow on time and transparently. Then let me speak to our peers who are in the banking sector and the private sector. Do you know that Wema Bank has taken a proactive stance on parental leave, granting women 180 days of maternity leave? And I will leave the men out. The men, you have 2 weeks of paternity leave to support early bonding. And Access Bank has offered 6 months of paid maternity leave, plus programs through its Access Women's Network, including mentorship and leadership. So for those in the private sector, investing in women is not just charity, it is strategy. Backing women-led businesses is not just the right thing, it's the smart thing to do. Data from McKinsey, IFS, BCG has showed that gender-balanced teams and female entrepreneurs outperform. The other thing I would say for those in the private sector, use the WE policy. These are enablers. It helps to provide some level of legitimacy and action. And let me speak to our friends who are in the civil society. Your work, pushing for inclusion, for dignity, for rights, is why we are here today. Now you must pair this urgency with operational clarity. Closing. What this looks like for us is that we're hoping that by this time we come back here, hopefully next year, that we'll see a solid change. Some of these things we've talked about, we'll see that a year from now, we'll have stronger platforms, A year from now, women's economic empowerment will not just be something that we just put on the table, but we'll see the actual actualization. So I want to just thank everybody for the opportunity. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to be on this platform, but most importantly, you are a champion, you are an advocate. Let's do this together. Let's see stronger wins, and let's build a stronger Nigeria with women at the top. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Ekene Misiche, Deputy Director of Program Advocacy and Communications at Gate Foundation. Thank you. Please, can we give him another round of applause? All right, at this time, we will take another video. Do we have it ready? Okay, I believe not. We'll skip that and come back to it. At this time, we'll transition into a plenary that I am actually looking forward to. I've been looking forward to it since yesterday, and our keynote speaker mentioned it in his speech as well. It's around the WE policy, from policy to impact, what we've learned from the domestication of the National Women's Economic Empowerment Policy. And I'll invite the moderator for this plenary, Rimisit Aboki, Gender Lead, DGA, Albright Stonebridge Group. Please can we put our hands together for her as she comes.
Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I have the honor to talk about a panel that we have been waiting for since yesterday, and we're going to take a different approach to this. We're going to do a plug and play. We're going to hear directly from the women, the grassroots women, and I have one today here which I'll be introducing soon. So this panel, we're going to be talking about the National Women's Economic Empowerment